One of the biggest concerns for people all over the country is residue management in the fall. We want to talk about some of that today.
Whether your overall tillage program is no-till, conventional till, strip till, or somewhere in between, residue management is a big deal on your farm if you want to have successful crops.
Well, let's talk about why it's so important. The main reasons are warming up the soil in the spring, which is a big issue in the northern part of the United States. And the other thing is seed to soil contact in the spring when you're planting, or anytime when you're planting, even if it's a fall crop, you've got to have that seed in contact with soil, otherwise you don't end up with good germination.
All right, well, for me, it all starts in the fall with the combine and how well your combine is going to spread that residue in your field.
Or chop it up to begin with. I mean, you can get a chopping corn head like on this stuff right behind us. Some years we've run a chopping corn head out there that really shreds that stuff up, and then you have a lot less residue come spring.
Well, here's the big deal with the chopping corn head. If you can chop that residue up as it's feeding in before you've driven over it with your tires, what a big deal that is. So you don't have all kinds of corn stalks matted down that you've run over. You've got a nice clean field to start working with. And if you've got residue spread out evenly in your field with conventional till, it's fantastic because you've sized that residue up. Now you've got pieces that are maybe 6 inches or 8 inches long at the most, and you can just work that right through just about any tillage tool. It works fantastic. However, if you're in a no-till situation or in a strip-till situation by using a chopping head, now you've got all that residue laying on the ground and you need to deal with that. So that changes up how you're going to do things. With strip-till, you need to move that residue to the side a little bit as you build your strips out in the field. With no-till, you're going to need some good residue managers on your planter in the spring.
As we've gotten higher yields in corn and ended up with more residue out there, we've switched a lot of our acres from no-till to strip-till. Now, we still do a little bit of everything. We do some conventional till, some strip-till, no-till, everything that there is. I think it's important to match up the tillage to the field and to the situation. Especially here in the northern US, we've got residue to deal with, and if you don't get that soil warmed up come spring, your crop is not going to emerge as quickly as you need from the ground. So we have so many people calling right now asking us, well, what do you think? How much tillage should I do? I know that we're in kind of a dry area of the country, so I'd like to no-till, but my ground's not going to warm up soon enough. So how far should we take it? How black should we make that ground?
Well, I sure like having the black strips. I'm personally a big fan of strip till, so you can just have that bias right out in the open here. I'm not trying to hide it. I really like having those black strips, but I do like leaving residue to protect that soil from erosion in between. So for me, I like that strip in my strip till row to be absolutely black. I really like to chew it up.
But if you're in corn like this, we'd done strip till corn on corn. And a lot of guys say, well, that's not even possible. You can't do that. It just doesn't work very well. So all of a sudden, your black strip that you talk about really liking, it's not going to be fully black when you're in 200 plus bushels.
Well, it's not going to be fully black in the spring. You aren't going to be able to completely fix it in the fall because you are going to have some trash that moves in, and you aren't going to do a perfect job out there.
Yep.
So for me, for the planter, you absolutely have to have some sort of residue manager, or what some guys are doing too is doing a little bit more tillage in those strips in the spring. Maybe you've got some coulters out in front of your row units, like that 3-coulter system that we used for a number of years, chopping up that residue that's left in your strips to kind of blacken them up and freshen them up again.
Or the other way around the whole thing is we use a Salford machine on our farm sometimes. With that Salford machine, it's basically like a bunch of coulters out there. If you do that right away in the fall, then you strip till, you have a lot less residue to deal with.
Well, again, you're sizing up your residue. It's easier to move around. Plus, you've chopped into those stalks a little bit, allowing more decay to happen through the winter and through the fall. With the Salford machine, you're going to size up that residue, you're going to add a little bit more dirt to it, and you're going to get that residue to break down quicker for you.
But here's the thing. There are a lot of people that will still do full-out conventional tillage, and you can do that. But here are the downsides to it. Number one, you're going to have more erosion problem, no doubt. The other big issue with making that ground black is the more tillage you do, the more that organic matter depletes. In other words, your soil is not as rich. We're trying to build our soils up. We want more organic matter out there because as that organic matter breaks down, it releases more nutrients for our crop. It acts kind of as a sponge for moisture. It's a good thing to have lots of organic matter. That's why we plant as much continuous corn as we do on our farm, just trying to build those organic matter levels up after they had gotten depleted over the last 50 years from the people before us doing lots of tillage.
Okay, well, we talk about about organic matter, and we did talk about chopping corn heads earlier, but let's say you have a standard corn head. The other end of the combine you need to focus on is the back end and what's coming out. What you don't want is a windrow of residue. So you do need to pay attention when you're doing maintenance on that combine, especially before corn harvest, but even before soybean harvest. Pay attention to your spread pattern in the back with your residue. If you need to adjust some fins or make some replacement parts, or just completely change how your combine spreads residue, it's a really big deal and it will impact your yields next year.
Well, overall residue management is super important on the farm. Again, we want to leave some residue out there so we try to build our soils up, or at least not deplete our organic matter. But on the flip side, we want to have warmer and drier soils in the spring, especially in the northern part of the country, and you have to have great seed to soil contact. So there are a lot of different ways to accomplish this. We're just trying to give you a few basics here. It is really important. You got to focus on residue management each and every fall.
Well, there's so many things to pay attention to on the farm. Don't neglect your weed control. We'll show you how to keep this weed under control coming up next.